Hey everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Castaway Consultants. What you're about to listen to is the first episode of our review series, our rewind series, where we go back and talk about the old Survivor seasons. This one in particular is Season 1, Borneo, the Pre-merge, the first 6 episode of Survivor Borneo. So that's what we're going to be talking about here. Just to let you guys know ahead of time that we actually recorded this before we even started doing the podcast for Season 39, Island of the Idols. We recorded this back in June of 2019. Originally, we were going to release these first. We got a little bit behind schedule, so we decided to move these until after Season 39 finished. So this was recorded in June of 2019. That's why we mentioned Season 38 so much, or, you know, just stuff like that. That's where we are in the timeline, just so you guys know. So some things in the Survivor community have changed. For example, Rudy, the great Rudy Bosch, has sadly passed away this fall. When we recorded this, he was still alive. So when we bring up Rudy, that's why. So this is actually the first Survivor podcast we ever did. So forgive us a little bit if we're not quite there. We don't quite have our craft down, because this is the first thing we recorded for Survivor. So kind of fun. But that's about it. So please enjoy this Survivor Rewind. Welcome to the Castaway Consultants Podcast, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game. This is a Survivor podcast, which will not be as in-depth as a lot of Survivor podcasts out there. This is kind of more geared towards people who have not seen the show in a long time or have never seen some of the earlier seasons. They're newer fans coming to the show for the first time. And watching an old season of Survivor can be kind of a daunting experience. There's 13, 14 episodes, each at least 40 minutes. And it's a big time commitment. So what this podcast is we're going back and rewatching the show so you don't have to. And we're going to give you what are the most important aspects of each season of the show. Basically, we're going to divide each season up into 2 episodes. The first episode will be all about the pre-merge, which is what you're listening to right now. And then we'll do a second post-merge episode. So we're rewatching this show basically so you don't have to. We'll give you all the important stuff you need to know for maybe some upcoming seasons where players are returning for. We will give you an abridged version of each season of Survivor and what you need to know without rewatching the seasons. I'm not doing this alone, however. I have 2 co-hosts here. First of all, my name is Ryan Stacy, and one of my co-hosts introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Josh Wessler.
And this is Derek Kubicek coming to you live from Fargo, North Dakota.
Yes. So we are 3 pretty hardcore Survivor fans, but we each are coming at this from a different frame of reference. For example, I am just a huge super fan of the show. I've been watching Survivor since I was a little kid. I watched the Season 3 Africa finale with my parents. Fell in love with the show immediately, and then had watched every single episode, Season 4 on. Have gone back and rewatched the show. So I've seen every season at least twice, besides like the newest ones that just finished. And there's a few I've seen 3 times. So basically, in general, this is my 3rd time rewatching the entire show. And yeah, so I'm just a massive super fan.
I started this show actually when a certain college roommate of mine brought me in for Blood versus Water, the first go round in season 27.
Yes.
And since then, I haven't missed a season. There's a half season in there where I maybe didn't finish because college got a little crazy, but I'm going to be covering that in this go round through. But I love Survivor. It brightens up all of my Wednesdays, and I'm not obviously as big of a super fan as Ryan over there, but I'm a super fan in my own way, and I'm excited to do this.
And Derek, you've seen 27 on, with that one exception.
Yep.
And then you have seen Season 1 as well, though.
Yes, I have gone back and watched Season 1. That was the only season that I finished. The rest of these seasons I have not seen, 2 through 26. I know some spoilers just because I talk about the show, but I don't know much, and I certainly don't know the journey. So I'm excited to go back and see a lot of these iconic moments that are maybe referenced in your Second Chances seasons or your Game Changers seasons. So I'm excited for that.
Sure.
So I actually started watching one season, ironically, after Derek, season 28. Cagayan. So I was also, ironically, in the dorms when I started watching this, and my own roommate, not the same roommate.
The roommate Derek was referring to is me. Down the hall from us was someone we didn't know named Josh.
Yes, I'm Josh. And my roommate actually was watching Survivor, and I had nothing better to do. It's college. You have a lot of free time. So I sat down with him and just randomly started watching Survivor too. And little did we know that I had never met these guys before. But probably within 2 months, after me starting to watch Survivor in season 28, I met these guys, Derek and Ryan. since then, I've watched every single season after season 28. I did also watch 27 in preparation for Blood vs. Water 2, but that's not the one that I actually started with. To get an idea of all the Survivor I have watched to date, would be season 27 through present day, and then also season 1 through currently season 18. I'm in the middle of watching the rest, so seasons 19 through 26. I will get there eventually, but it is a time commitment, which is also a good reason why I wanted to be a part of the podcast, because I realize that it is a serious time commitment if you're going to go through and watch 39 seasons soon of Survivor. Yeah, I'm excited for this. But my role, because of that, will be different.
So we're each coming at this from a different angle. I'm your super fan, and I know everything about the show there is to know, yada, yada. Derek is kind of what his role will be, not so much with this first season, but with the subsequent seasons. He will be kind of making predictions, and we'll kind of use him as we're going to watch him watch this show for the first time. So he'll get to make guesses and predictions and see if he ends up being right about anything.
Yeah, for those of you out there who have seen these seasons and happen to be listening, I get to be that friend that you're watching with, that you react to me reacting.
Yes.
So I'm not going to be afraid to make some predictions. I'm going to try and do the best I can to call out the things that I really like, really enjoy. And plus, I've been so passionate about Survivor for 6-7 years now, and the fact that I haven't gone back and watched these, it's an exciting time to get to do that. So enjoy that with me. If you can't talk anyone into watching 38 seasons of Survivor with you, you can just use me as that person. So I'm excited. And to go back just a little bit, just for a second, to what Josh was saying about that 38 seasons being a really daunting task. The reason that I haven't gone back and watched them is I have been very busy. I'm that 8 to 5, come back, do house projects, got the wife, got all that stuff. This is a serious time commitment for me. So hopefully those of you out there who are maybe a little overwhelmed with 38 seasons of content and lore and mythos, we can break that down. So I can't understate how excited I am to try and deliver that.
And then with Josh, we're kind of going to be using you as a test to see how memorable seasons are, because you've only seen this show once.
Yeah, I have never watched any season more than one time. So I'm really interested to see what I remember going back, starting with season 1. I'm actually, instead of watching every single episode, I'm going to be watching some chunks of it. So it's going to be the first episode of the season. I'm going to be watching the merge episode of the season and the finale. I might do a little bit of reading in between on each of the other episodes, but that's about it. So that would be a good gauge for what I really remember when we're talking through all these different things.
And what is going to be kind of fun here is shortly we're going to be playing a game that we've already previously recorded, but we're going to be testing how memorable some of these seasons are, and we're going to go over the cast a little bit, and we're going to see how much Josh remembers from this season. And so that'll be fun. We hope you like that.
Yeah, I was actually surprised at how many I was able to list off, but also some that I forgot.
Yes. And so we hope that one of our 3 perspectives will be similar to yours, and we'll get a wide range of people listening to this. But all of us love Survivor. That's what we all have in common. So it doesn't really matter if you're a super fan, if you're casual, you're just getting into it. We have something here for you. So we hope you like this. What we will be doing is we will be spoiling the first 6 episodes of this season. So we're not going to talk about anything post-merge at this point. We've watched the first 6 episodes of the season, and that's what we're going to be talking about, nothing beyond the merge. Basically, we just want to talk about all the major stuff, the stuff that actually ends up being important.
Yep.
So before we get into this, here is the game Josh and I played previously. We recorded this before he started the show just to see how many people he remembered. So here is our previously recorded game now. Okay, Josh, since it's been 5 or 6 years since you've seen season 1 of Borneo, let's see how good your memory is. How memorable was this season for you? So let's go over the cast, and just first off, we'll just see how many people you can remember from the cast off the bat.
Yeah, and right away at first, obviously there's Richard. I definitely remember Sue and Kimmy.
No Kimmy on this season.
Oh, no. What is her name? It starts with a K. I know it starts with a K, unless it doesn't start with a K. Okay, I'm going to pass her for now. Let's see. There's Jervis and the two youngins that have a showmance. The guy has a phone during the season. I think it's Greg.
Greg is correct.
Greg, Colleen.
Yep.
And that's those 2. You have the two old guys, BB and Rudy. I said Sue already, didn't I?
Yeah, you said Sue.
Oh, no. Okay. And then there was the one guy who voted in order alphabetically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember his name. There's no chance I'm going to remember his name.
It's Sean.
Sean? Yeah, wouldn't have gotten that.
Good enough for that one.
There's the old lady that got voted out early.
Sonia.
Yep. I wouldn't have remembered her name, though.
You at least remember the person.
Yep. So memorable enough. Let's see, we got
7 more.
I think that's it.
That's it. All right, well, let's try this. Let's have you take a look at some of these faces and see if you can remember any of them.
Yeah, this might help, actually.
All right, so we'll start with Toggy. Start in order here. And I believe these are in alphabetical order, so that might help you a little bit. So here's our first one. You remember this guy?
Nope.
All right, that's Dirk.
Oh, Dirk is the alphabetical guy.
No. Sean was the alphabetical guy.
See, I already forgot.
Dirk was Sean's buddy. And to be fair, Dirk is probably the least memorable person on the season. But he was super religious. That was his big thing.
Oh, the Bible guy. Yes. Kelly. It's Kelly, not Kimmy.
Yep.
Damn it.
You were close with this one, but you didn't say enough of what she did for me to give you to this one. You got Richard and Rudy,
Yep.
Sean, right? And you got Sonia, right? How about this one?
Looks familiar. No, I don't remember it.
Okay, this is Stacy, and her only really memorable moment is she beats Jervis in the bug eating competition.
Yeah, see, I hardly even remember that, so very, very non-memorable person.
Yeah, third boot.
Sorry, Stacy.
And then you got Sue, correct?
Of course.
So let's go over to Pagong.
Okay.
And we'll start with these people. Okay, so how about this one? Who is that?
Don't recognize her.
That is Ramona. And she was very sick for a lot of the season.
Oh, that's right. Yep.
You got Greg, right?
Yep.
And how about her?
She looks really familiar.
Yes.
Like really, really familiar. Has she played multiple times?
She played it again, yes.
Okay.
It's Jenna Lewis.
Yes.
Yep. She was nicknamed Speedball. She doesn't shut up.
Okay, so at least I remember her. It's not like a couple of the other ones where I just straight up don't remember.
Yeah. So how about this guy?
I got nothing.
That's Joel, a.k.a. Captain America. He was kind of the chauvinist.
Okay.
Alleged chauvinist.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. So we have Colleen, who you got right.
Yep.
And you got Jervis and BB, right? So this is the last one. Who is this?
Wasn't that more of like the mom of the group?
Yep. She was the older woman on the group.
I have no idea what her name is.
Gretchen. Okay, so you got 9 out of 16. That's, well, I'm going to write that down, and we'll keep track and see. We'll be able to see how memorable these seasons are.
How memorable, yeah. So, and like we mentioned, this was, it's been, I actually don't even remember when it would have been. Probably 2013, possibly 2014 is when I watched it. So about 5 or 6 years.
And we are currently in June of 2019. But
yeah. So I don't know.
More than half.
And I only watched it once. I've only watched that first season once before.
And this is my 4th time watching it.
Yeah, so I feel like, I don't know, I get a little bit of slack for that. That's a pretty good amount of time for remembering those people's names. I mean, yeah, I only got like 5 people who I actually remembered their names on.
Yep.
That's pretty low, but at the same time, at least I recognize people's faces after the fact.
And, I think it's okay to be a little more forgetful in the names as long as you remember the person. Like, I'll give you the points.
Yeah.
Because that's easier to remember than the names.
Yeah.
Good job, Josh.
Well, thank you.
What is that? It's like a 50, like you got above 50%, like 55%. So that's an F.
That's passing, right?
No, that's a failure.
Yeah,
but maybe you remember since it's been the longest since you watched this one.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe all the other ones you'll have watched.
Yes,
and you'll remember
maybe.
all of them.
Yes.
Probably not.
No.
There's some seasons where I almost forget people. It's like, oh yeah, they were on this season. Who
This
are they?
forgetful person.
They have nothing memorable about them, but at least everybody in this season did something.
Mm-hmm.
And we're back. So Josh ended up getting a 9 out of 16, so we'll see how that improves over time. But just for everybody else, just very briefly, we're going to just list everybody in the cast this season and what they did, where they're from, just to remind you in case you don't remember all of them. So we'll just do that very quickly. So starting on the Pagong tribe, we have BB, who is a real estate developer from Kansas, kind of an older gentleman. We have Colleen, who is a student from Miami Beach. Jervis, a YMCA basketball coach from New Jersey. Greg, an Ivy League graduate from Colorado. Gretchen, a teacher from Tennessee. Jenna, a student from New Hampshire and a single mom. Joel, health club consultant from Arkansas. And Ramona, a biochemist from New Jersey. And then over on Tagi, which is the orange tribe, Pagong was in yellow. Tagi has Dirk, a dairy farmer from Wisconsin. Kelly, a river guide from Nevada, white water raft guide. Richard, a corporate trainer from Rhode Island. Rudy, an ex-Navy SEAL from Virginia. Dr. Sean Kenneth from New York. Sonia, a musician from California. She's kind of an older woman. Stacy, an attorney from California, San Francisco specifically. And Sue Hawk, a truck driver from Wisconsin. And that is our cast. Some of those are memorable, some of them not so much. And that's pretty much everything we have to set up. So unless either of you have anything else to say, let's get into these episodes.
Let's do it.
Episode 1, Survivor Borneo, The Marooning. Very exciting episode. They get kicked off their boat. They have to paddle to shore, get supplies, yada yada. It's basically the same old stuff you've seen on every Survivor season. But we're not going to go through everything beat by beat. We're just going to talk about the main stuff, the meat of each episode. So I think the first thing we should talk about is, well, on Toggy, everybody kind of wants to just get into action right away. And Richard Hatch wants everybody to stop, slow down, and wants to talk and make a plan.
And this is a really important distinction for character development for Richard. I'd seen this season one time before, so, you kind of know how things are going to shake out going forward, but you have to try and fit in a little bit better. And Richard kind of sticks out like a sore thumb here on Toggy. For those of you who have seen more recent seasons of Survivor, there's certainly some editology when you're talking about number of confessionals and stuff like that. And so we get some stuff from Sue, the truck driver in Wisconsin. We get some stuff from Richard Hatch. We get some stuff from Sean, Dr. Sean. Everyone is trying to set up camp, and Richard wants to sit down and make a plan. So immediately he kind of puts himself on the outs. I don't know if anyone would agree with this.
Yeah, I agreed. I guess I don't really have too much to add on that because it was pretty spot on with Richard, at least.
Yeah, what you want to do for Survivor is you want to fit in. You don't want to stick out for any reason. Do whatever the tribe is doing. If you are on a lazy tribe, be lazy. If you are on a workhorse tribe, work hard. If they want to sit and plan. Don't make any decisions. You follow what everybody else is doing and stick with the majority.
Well, and you kind of see that on the flip side with like BB. He's the workhorse on a general, I wouldn't say lazy tribe, but you're sticking out. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily, and it was kind of his personality too, but where you can stick out for being bossy or lazy, being a workhorse does stick out too, and people might see it as maybe not in season 1 necessarily, but maybe threatening.
And that's the good point. Like, this is season 1. Nobody knows what they're doing yet.
Yeah, everyone's kind of been told you're getting stranded on an island, and maybe they got some direction from production. Hey, vote out who you think is useless, or vote out who you think is the weakest. Maybe they were given instruction on that, because it's not like modern seasons of Survivor where everyone is kind of dropped in and then they let the cast pick what they're going to do. This was the christening of the show. Production needs to make sure that it has some direction because it hasn't taken on a life of its own yet.
Yep.
So to you guys' point, you can't stick out. You got to try and find a way to fit in. Social game starts the second you hit the beach.
And yeah, this is a misstep for Richard right off the bat. He's going to survive this pre-merge, but this is one of several times where Richard is going to make himself stick out.
Which I think is kind of interesting because it's going to work in his favor because he's sticking out, and even if he's not being considered like the leader, he's definitely having some influence on the tribe. And if you would have kind of put him into more of a more recent season, or even a couple of seasons down the line, just as long as it's not the very first season, we could have seen Richard go home episode 1 or 2.
Sure.
Now, yeah.
Yep. I want to go back to kind of what you said about BB, and this will bring me to my next point.
Yeah.
Is I want to talk about the difference between BB and Rudy. They're the two oldest guys in the seasons. BB is on Pagong, Rudy is on Toggy, and they are polar opposites, even though they're very similar people, but in terms of the way they play the game, they're polar opposites. Because both of them are very stubborn. They're old, they're kind of set in their ways. But there's a big difference between them, and that is Rudy is willing to adapt, and BB is not.
Yeah, isn't there a quote right from Rudy in episode 1 where he's saying, I'm the old guy, I stick out a little bit, I need to work to fit in with these young guns, these young bucks. And then you've got BB over there saying, I'm the only one here who wants to get any work done, and I have to do it, and anyone who doesn't, they are the enemy.
Yep.
And I think that kind of just stays true no matter what kind of role you're in on Survivor. If you're the super old person, or if you are really weak or anything, adaptability might just be the number one trait that you need to have.
I 100% agree with this, and this is why Rudy is going to make the merge and BB is not. Rudy, at this point, he's 72 years old. He's the oldest person to ever play the game, and nobody has beaten his record. You'd think easy to vote out early on, and he will get several votes early on, but his adaptability is what saves him. And that's the difference between him and BB.
And, going just a little bit further forward, social game isn't going to save you all the time, though.
Sure.
Because right here on Toggy, we have this lovable old woman, Sonia. She's a music teacher. She actually has one of my favorite human moments in the entire show, and it's right here in episode 1. It's her with her ukulele, presumably her personal item that she got to bring on the island with her, and she is singing Bye Bye Blues to Richard right on the beach. I love this human moment. This is great TV, but during the immunity challenge, the very first immunity challenge, she falls, and their tribe loses, and ultimately this is going to bring us to our first tribal council where Sonia is voted out.
Yep. Everybody likes Sonia. Social game won't always save you.
Yeah, and it's nothing against her. It's not an indictment on her personality. It's you are not going to help us win these race challenges in the future, and they don't know what's coming up because that was the first challenge. Yep. They might all be physical.
They have no idea. Before we get into the tribal council, because there's not a ton to talk about, like strategy-wise in this first episode, but there's one kind of fun thing I want to point out, is BB and Ramona go out and find water. And this is just kind of funny because these are two people who aren't going to be on this show for very long. They're going to go out here. But they find water, and BB suggests not telling the others where the water is and holding it hostage so they can't get voted out and, like, destroying the map. I just thought it was kind of funny and, like, a novel strategy. They don't end up doing it, but it's just like, hey, that's, like, a fun idea.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it only works until someone follows you out into the woods and finds the water. But, the beginnings of shenanigans.
Yep.
This has already begun. We're 5 minutes into the episode and we're already talking about withholding the necessities.
Yep.
That's great.
And I think this is where it would have been, like, really interesting from a production side. And I don't know how much Jeff actually, like, watches any of this, like, raw footage or anything or behind the scenes stuff. But even if you're just, like, maybe like an executive producer on it, you have a general idea of where Survivor is going to end up going, where you kind of want it to go. And you start to see episode 1 kind of people starting to just act their own way and just kind of like going off path. Even if it's something as simple as just like a water remark like that.
Yeah.
Humans be humans.
Exactly. So and I just can't imagine like how cool that would have been just from the producer side.
Oh, yeah. Watching this play out for the first time must have been just amazing.
Yeah. We have something here, folks.
we got some gold here. All right, so first tribal council, let's talk about this vote. So Sonia's going to end up going home here. She's going to get 4 votes. Rudy's going to get 3 for being kind of annoying. And Stacy is going to get a vote from Richard for subtle reasons that he's not quite sure what they are. And Sonia was voted out for being weak, and she's the reason they lost the challenge. She's the oldest woman there. She's in her 60s, I think. Mm-hmm. So, were they right to vote out Sonia?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think you don't know what it is going forward. You just know that you're on an island and Survivor is the name of the game. Keep it strong. This was an easy vote, I think.
Yeah, even if Rudy's being annoying, he's got more survival know-how than Sonia. And I don't know what Richard's doing voting for Stacy here. No idea.
Subtle reasons.
Weren't
you listening?
Yes, thank you.
And even if you would bring that to not the first season of Survivor, it's still the right move. Like,
yep.
Yeah, they don't know what's coming up, but at the same time, even if you'd put yourself into just a random season, I think she's the obvious choice to get voted out just because it's still a tribal game and you need to win these challenges. I don't see any other option.
My philosophy is you always vote out the weakest person who's not in your alliance. There's no alliances yet. We're not at that point in the Survivor yet, so Sonia's got to go.
Yeah, and remembering, pre-merge Survivor, if you don't go to tribal, you can't get voted out. Have a strong tribe.
Yeah, you ain't going to tribal then. Okay, so that's pretty simple. So another segment we're going to do here really quickly is for each episode, I want to give out a best player of the episode and worst player of the episode. We won't take too long on this, but I just want to give props round by round because I kind of look at Survivor like a game of musical chairs, and all you got to do is get into a chair. You got to, one person's not getting into the chair, but I want to take a look at who's the person who did the best job at getting into the chair, and the worst person who still got into the chair. So the person who got voted out is not eligible for this. So very quickly, I think the best player of the episode is Gretchen. She manages to get the fire started along with BB, but she has a much better social game than BB, but is willing to work with both the younger people and BB. Playing peacemaker.
And we haven't talked about Gretchen at all previously because, she didn't do a whole lot in this episode, but if you don't do a whole lot, sometimes it means you had a good episode. We got to see a little bit on both tribes, and she took on a responsible leadership role while at the same time getting along well with everyone.
Yep.
So I absolutely agree with best player of the episode.
I agree.
Okay, thank you, Josh. And the worst player of the episode is easy. It's BB for being too bossy. And specifically, he really pissed off the other alpha male in the tribe, Joel.
Absolutely. Easy award.
Yes, I agree with BB. I think there could also be an argument made for Rudy for the best player of the episode. Yes, he got a little bit of hate, but I think one of the most important things came out and maybe was a realization for him, and that was the adaptability thing we talked about.
My criteria for this is everybody's placement at the beginning of the episode and how do they end up at the end of the episode. So starting at the beginning, especially in the first episode, they're all at ground zero, right? Rudy did some bad things and dug his way back up. But it still wasn't back to ground zero because he still has Stacy and Kelly who aren't big fans of him. So
I guess making 2 enemies is worse than making 0 enemies.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing we want to do, and this will be kind of fun, is we want to discuss who our winner picks would have or were after one episode. For example, I did not watch Borneo when it aired. None of us did. But I want to talk about, after watching one episode, who is the person you would have picked to win based on everything we see in episode 1. And we all know who won the season. We won't say it here. Based on everything you saw, who is the person you would have picked to win?
So, the person who I picked to win is also the person who I think had the best episode, Gretchen. She establishes herself on a younger, stronger tribe as the responsible leader and voice of reason. And this is also an early season of Survivor. I know that the people on this season are going to be more inexperienced and don't really think about threat management as much as modern Survivor. So I have to go with Gretchen.
I 100% agree. I'm also going to go with Gretchen. I think she had the best episode, and that's usually what I make my picks based off of, and it hasn't worked out great for me, but that's who I would have picked.
So the way that I was looking at it is more just based on other seasons that I've watched. And now this is the one episode that I did watch so far for this season. And everything that I saw in that first episode, yeah, I can see Gretchen. You can see multiple people here.
Sure.
But I try to choose someone who's a little more under the radar, but still has some good points in that episode. And I think that I would have gone with Sue.
Sue Hawk.
Yep.
Okay. So far, both of our Gretchen and Sue have both made the merge, so we're doing all right so far.
Hooray.
Woo.
All right. We'll see if one of us can win this thing. Anything else you want to talk about with episode 1, or should we move on? Episode 2, the generation gap. So the first thing with this episode is Richard and Rudy become friends, but not in a homosexual way, that's for sure.
Thanks, Rudy.
That is such a great quote.
If you watch any of the pregame interviews with Rudy, they ask him, would you vote out anybody for being a woman? No. Would you vote out somebody for being of a different race? No. Would you vote out somebody if they were gay? Yes. Rudy says that in a pregame interview. And he becomes really good friends with Richard, despite him being gay, which is just like a really cool moment. And one of my favorite parts of season 1.
And a good example of him proving to be adaptable and willing to change.
He rubbed sunscreen on Richard's back.
That was so funny.
And I wouldn't even say it's adaptable more. I kind of forgot about this moment, but I remember it now that it's brought up. And I wouldn't even say that it's adaptable. It's more another really important trait, and that's becoming open-minded to other people. Because you're going to have some polarizing people on Survivor throughout the years. And that's just because that's the way that they cast it. They do it on purpose, obviously.
Yep.
So as long as you stay open-minded...
You don't have to agree with how somebody lives their life, but if you can put aside your differences to work together, you can win the game.
Yeah.
Or at least get far. And this is just great, and it's a lot of fun. And I know they're still friends in real life, which is very nice.
That's cool.
And meanwhile, over on the Pagong tribe, we have some other things that are typically Survivor troubles or Survivor no-nos. Greg and Colleen showing a little bit of a showmance. We know this in Modern Survivor as being a power couple. Terrifying and usually gets voted out quickly. And then we also have another member of the tribe who is sick and basically not able to help around camp at all, and she starts to get some flack for that. So that's Ramona. What do you guys think? If you're sick, and you're sick on day 1, because this is a drastic change for your body, if you're going, just from one place where it's not tropical to all of a sudden tropical and you go under, what do you do if you're sick?
You gotta pretend to not be sick. Fake it till you make it. It's gonna suck, and you can just say, well, it sucks out here. You gotta just pretend to not be sick. It sucks, but sometimes that's what you gotta do, because people think you're sick. Well, that means you're weak. That means you're going home.
Yeah, you're an easy target. And if you can't really hide it, you're off puking somewhere, don't complain about it.
Or at least do it out of sight.
Yeah, as much as possible. And sometimes that's not gonna really be possible, so I know it's tough, but I think it's really interesting how many classic or modern Survivor things are just right on the surface here, with someone being sick, having a power couple, having someone that you don't really agree with, like Rudy, you have all these options for easy vote outs of what you might think just in Survivor now that might not just happen here in season 1.
The Greg and Colleen thing, that whole showmance being a dangerous thing will become a thing later. I don't want to spoil when. But that is not really in the realm of possibility yet. And this is not really a romance. This was never a romance. This is a producer's manufacturing thing. But Greg and Colleen were just good friends. And having somebody you were close to like that, a powerful duo, romantic or otherwise, I mean, it's going to take you far. And Greg and Colleen are both going to make the merge. And I think it's because they have each other watching each other's back.
Yeah, no, moving on. More on the Pagong tribe. So far, we're getting a lot more juicy stuff from this side. We also have BB, no surprises here, and Joel kind of fighting over the alpha position on the tribe. So not only do we have a showmance and a sick tribe member, we have our 2 alphas going head-to-head, trying to decide who has the bigger set of antlers.
You don't do this.
Come on, BB. You got to do better. And then on top of that, he washes his clothes in the fresh water. Again, BB, you're stirring the pot here. You can't...
Literally.
Yeah, you're stirring your clothes in the pot here. You can't do this.
I mean, at this point, it's just lack of self-awareness, which that's another really important trait.
Self-awareness is another extremely important quality on Survivor. If you see how you are affecting other people, you can adapt.
Isn't it great to see 2 episodes in, you have all these like key components of what it takes to either do really well or do very poorly right away in the first season.
We get a lot from season 1. It's really crazy how much we get out of this. Then we have Sean building his super pole. I just want to mention that real quick because it's so cool.
Completely forgot about this.
And completely useless device, but it looks awesome.
Yeah, good job, man. I applaud the effort.
So this is interesting, and I don't think a lot of people remember this, but BB wants out. He's kind of done with his show. He's talking about an exit strategy. He wants to throw the challenge so people can vote him out. It's interesting because we have this happening in the first season, and nobody remembers this.
You know, I remember watching it the first time, and I remember going back and seeing it again. I'm thinking, man, it's not good TV. It's really not. And the only way that you could spin this as good TV is Survivor is hard. It does take a toll socially, mentally, physically. And he just gave up. I don't like seeing quitters. Obviously, we have someone here. They end up not throwing the challenge intentionally, and we'll get into what that is in a second. But come on now, BB.
Yeah.
You signed up for it. You're going to call everyone else out on not being a hard worker, and then you're going to quit on the show 5 days in. Not a good look.
Yeah, I remember this being annoying.
Immunity challenge is a bug eating challenge, which will become a staple in Survivor, and Jervis loses in a head-to-head showdown with Stacy. So Pagong goes Trouble Council. So here's the question. BB wants to go home. He's kind of been a bossy prick. Ramona has been sick, kind of weak. Who do you vote out here? Because BB's the one who goes home. Everybody votes for BB except for obviously BB and Greg. Greg also votes for Ramona.
So now you guys will have to remind me, is a lot of the work at camp done by now? Because if that is the case, then I would 100% say that BB can go home. I'd be done with him. He's being negative at camp. Yeah, he's a hard worker, but anyone can really pick up sticks and bring them for firewood. But if like shelter stuff is already done and a bunch of the regular just beach work is done, then I think you're for you to just let BB go.
Shelter's done.
You know, I agree with a lot of that, but I think I've watched New School Survivor. To me, this is a perfect opportunity to send Ramona home because you have 2 people who aren't going to be useful in challenges. Ramona's sick. BB is a little bit older. Anything physical, they're probably on a similar level. BB does not want to be there. Keep him around. You lose the next challenge. He's the easy go home for you. So it's another spot, another body that you don't have to worry about. I think you vote out anyone but BB if you can spin it.
But
Hold him hostage.
Hold him hostage, absolutely.
I don't think that I don't think you could just vote off Ramona and say like, oh, she's going to be sick and not going to perform. She can get over her sickness the very next day and be very useful for performing in challenges. We're still only episode 2 here, so you still need to win these challenges. BB, I wouldn't be confident, even if they are similar like strengths and everything. I wouldn't be confident saying like, oh, he's going to give his full effort because he doesn't want to be here.
Hey, primary concerns. I think for me personally, I'd rather have the next vote out figured out at the expense of losing someone who might become useful. That's just me personally, and I'm thinking about this from a very new school lens because that's all I've seen. I think you hold BB hostage. You have to.
I think at this point, BB has such a negative presence on the tribe. I think you just let him go. don't think it matters too much either way. Honestly, if they came to me and I had to make the decision, I'd be like, I don't give a crap, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. But I guess if I had to choose gun in my head, get rid of BB just because he's so negative.
That's fine.
Aha, 2v1.
But honestly, this one doesn't matter.
No.
Best player of the episode is Greg for making the showmance with Colleen, which she'll protect him, and keeping everybody laughing and being entertained. Being a comedian out there, a good comedian, is a very useful skill.
Yeah.
It's boring out there.
Yeah, I would agree.
And I love Greg, so
Greg's great.
you can give this award to him as many times you want.
Worst player of the episode is Ramona for being sick and not doing anything to hide it.
And the only reason it's not BB is because he went home.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say like why not BB, but
'Cause he went home.
You can't choose him.
Yep. Episode 3, Quest for Food. First thing we see, which is interesting, is Stacy tries to form an alliance with Kelly and Sue to vote out Rudy. Which, this is like the first talk of alliances we've had in the game, and it comes from Stacy.
Now, was the actual word alliance thrown out?
I don't think so.
No, that won't come until, I believe, next episode.
I mean, because even in the first 2 episodes, there was talk of just voting similarly.
Sure.
Like, who should we vote for in general? And not like, hey, let's just talk between, like, the 2 of us.
Sure.
And, like, always vote together. So, I think that this would be alliance very loosely termed.
Yeah. It's the first instance of real scheming and plotting.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Vocal scheming and plotting. Because I think there's a difference between coming to a consensus as a tribe and having an alliance that agrees before even going into a vote that you're going to be together for some predetermined amount of time, or at least for now. I think that's a really big difference even going into Modern Survivor. You know, whether or not you're talking about voting blocks or alliances or swing votes, it's all about not having just some kind of general consensus of who's going home. It's about having a plan. Everyone goes in having a plan and having included others with that plan.
Yep.
So I don't think this counts as the official alliance, but like you said, this is Stacy? Who?
Yep. Yeah, who's Stacy? Exactly. She's going to go home in this episode, but she tries.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Yeah.
Sue is not interested in this plan. She does not like Stacy very much, so she does not want to join in forces with her.
Not a good move by my winner pick.
You know, she should have just said yeah. Like, yeah, let's do it. She should have been a little bit more like, yeah, I'm in. Because say yes to everything. It's like Ghostbusters rule. If someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
I didn't know that was a Ghostbusters rule, but okay.
That's the rule from Ghostbusters. It's the same thing. If someone asks you if you want to be in an alliance, you say yes.
Yeah, when in doubt, fake it till you make it. We said it earlier.
Yep.
Just keep saying yes. It's a really good social move in real life, unless it's, getting ridiculous. But try and say yes as much as you can. People like to hear the word yes. People want to feel included. They want to feel like they're having a hand in guiding your motions. I will say, though, I don't think Sue was too off-putting to Stacy about it. In her confessional, she was saying, I want to keep that Rudy around, but come on now.
She was off-putting enough that Stacy mentioned it in the confessional.
That's fair enough.
Doesn't end up mattering, but, Also on Toggy, we have Dirk doing some preaching, which annoys a few members of Toggy. Don't bring up religion on the island. Unless your entire tribe is religious, don't bring it up. Don't.
And that might be a solid Survivor rule to go forward with, but on just more of a practical level, I think it's okay to bring up religion, but you have to, again, this is about assimilating and being, in with the tribe. Don't stick out. If you're going to stick out with your faith-based practices, that's fine, but that's also what might get you sent home. So if your primary goal is to stay close to your faith and that's what you want to do and you feel you need to do that, absolutely. I've got nothing to say.
Have fun on the pre-jury trip.
Sure. But and I understand how that is for some people the most important thing, but if winning the $1 million is your goal,
which it should be because you got cast on this reality show, you have to be able to put that not aside, but maybe to the back or the middle of your mind. Go off alone and do that, and don't talk to people about it.
I say don't mention it unless it's asked. And then if it's asked, answer it truthfully, as long as it's not something extreme here. Like, you never know.
Yeah.
But as long as it's not something extreme, answer it truthfully, because if you are able to bond with someone over this, it can be really beneficial. But you don't want to lie, and then that person that person tries to bond with you, and then you're just a liar because they find out.
You can lie if you are knowledgeable on the subject.
Yes.
This will happen to someone's great success later in the show, where someone who's not religious, is on a very religious tribe, pretends to be religious, prays with them, does all this stuff, and goes extraordinarily far in the game. It works wonders for a player.
Yeah, and this actually brings up a good point about alter egos that you bring to the island. I think in this season 1, we're not going to see a ton of that.
No.
But certainly there are seasons later on, every time it seems you have a young player, they always pretend to be older.
Sure.
And every time, not every time, but a lot of times when you see an older player, you're going to see them attempt to assimilate more with the young people because they know how the game is played. It's all about bringing an alter ego, and all you have to do is commit to that alter ego. You have to commit to the game you're going to play. So if you're going out there and you are going to be less religious, you need to commit to that. If you're going to go out there and play a certain religion or are given the opportunity to do that, again, you have to commit to it. I'm not saying that this is something that you should try to do in your real life, but on the island, that's what gets you a day further.
Yep, camouflage. So Dirk annoys people with this, and he should read the room and know this is annoying people. Drop it. But on the same note, Richard is annoying Dirk with his talk of sexual stuff. Dirk is uncomfortable with gay people, but he's putting that aside for the most part. He works with Richard, but he is annoyed that Richard brings up sex stuff and makes Dirk uncomfortable. Beliefs aside, don't make people uncomfortable. Richard, don't bring up sex stuff.
And how, since I don't really remember, how bad was it? Or was it like graphic? Or?
No,
Okay.
not at all. I mean, who knows what actually happened, but from what we saw, no.
Okay, because I feel like at the base level, like you can bring it up obviously, but if there's someone who you can tell might not necessarily agree with it or be comfortable with it, that's when you definitely cool it. And if that's what it looked like, not a good move for Richard.
Yeah, and I'm part of the LGBT community, and you normally keep that on the down low as I say this on a podcast.
Good job, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you. And it's really nobody's business. But if I'm on the island, and let's say I'm on the island with somebody who's homophobic, guess what? I'm not bringing it up because I'm trying to win $1 million. Sometimes you just got to suck it up. Yeah, it's someone you might not get along with in the real world, and we'll see this in other seasons as well. It's not just here. Shut it down. Shut it up. Shut up. Keep your mouth shut. Don't bring up anything that'll cause any problems, even if it's, the right thing to bring up,
Yeah, and... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, and this is definitely going to be a talking point in later seasons that comes into play dramatically.
Huge.
So I'm interested to talk about it. Obviously, we're not going to do that today.
So Richard bringing up the fact that he's gay in the first place, I mean, props to him for doing it. Bold move. Could have gotten him voted out, especially in 2000.
And not to look at it from too much of a production standpoint, but I'm guessing they wanted someone to be openly gay on the show.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they told him that he needed to do it, but there might have been a little bit of like a nudge, elbow. Come on, Richard, we need some fireworks out here. We're going to put a preacher and an ex-military member who is willing to vote you out based on your sexuality. We're going to put you all in the same tribe. I'm just saying that Dirk and Rudy were not on Pagong.
Yep.
And I feel like Pagong in general would have been very cool
So probably.
with Richard's sexuality.
Maybe not BB, but who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe not BB.
But I think everybody else probably, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, they play up Survivor this early in the show as the great social experiment.
Yeah.
They put all these different people and cast these people specifically for this reason, so we see this stuff play out. And it's just cool to see.
And nowadays you're probably fine if you come out on the show to everybody. I'm sure you'll be fine generally.
Yeah.
But it comes more to like talking about sex stuff. People can be uncomfortable with that, and that's totally fine. So don't bring it up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, whether it's gay or straight.
yeah, period. So it goes back to don't bring it up yourself, but if someone brings it up to you, go ahead. You can use it as a bonding experience. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be religion, politics, sex, whatever. Use it to bond if you can, but don't bring it up.
And we've spent a lot of time on this topic already, so we don't have to maybe go into that any deeper right now, because it'll certainly come up again.
For sure.
But, I mean, Richard kind of finds a way to redeem this uncomfortability, because they go to Reward Challenge, they win fishing gear, and he comes back, and Dirk and Sean are ribbing him a little bit about, he's been talking all of this smack about how he can spearfish and how he's done that, and he spent years training to do this, but he can't do it. Richard immediately goes out and catches 3 manta rays and brings them back as
They're good.
food.
And they're good.
And the tribe likes it. So now he is provider. So guess what? That is going to offset any feelings of uncomfortability.
And didn't those other guys struggle with that too?
They didn't catch anything.
Never catch anything.
The super pole does not work. Great plan. Does not work. I love it. It's a great thing for scout camp.
Yep. And this will be huge because even to this day, there's people on Survivor who are like, yeah, if I provide food, they won't vote me out. And while that was kind of true here, it's not true anymore.
No, they don't care about providers.
This is something that has
anymore.
fallen off the radar. Nobody cares about providers anymore. You'll get food. You win rewards. You'll eventually get food. But at this time, this was huge.
Yeah, and then Richard tries another thing just immediately after this. He tries this open forum.
Which we don't actually see on the show. Richard just talks about it in a confessional. But he suggested having an open forum discussion about who to vote out. Shuts down. Immediately shut down.
No one wants to do it.
And that's kind of curious too, just because isn't it Richard who instigates one of the first alliances?
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna see that
like
very
first
soon.
true one.
Yep.
So it's kind of interesting to see that before he kind of went forward with trying to create an alliance, he wanted to try to do this open forum.
Sure.
It's kind of, I don't know, it's just odd.
Yeah. He's trying stuff. This isn't going to work. And we're going to see this not work various times over the course of the show. Open forum is a bad call. Keep your scheming and plotting secret.
Well, and I think this is him testing the waters.
Sure.
Again, here is, bad pun, but he's testing the waters here because he knows that an open forum is absolutely in his favor. He's the strongest on the tribe. He's providing food. Open forum is to his advantage.
Yep.
Absolutely no question. So it's no wonder everyone else shuts it down. They're like, well, why the heck would we do that, Richard? You're safe.
Yep. This benefits nobody but Richard.
But that's going to lead into him being surreptitious and sneaky and plotting.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to work to his favor. So he is showing that he learns from past mistakes here.
Yep.
This is great.
So we get to the vote, and it becomes Stacy or Rudy. And everybody votes for Stacy except for Stacy and Kelly. They want to get rid of Rudy because he's annoying, Stacy because she's weak.
I have this written down in my notes as the first official blindside. And it's really subtle because there's no hashtags flying across the screen. But Stacy on her way up says, you guys switched your votes, as she grabs her torch to get it snuffed by Jeff. So I have it in my notes as the first official blindside in Survivor canon.
But I don't think it actually was, because there's a lot of controversy surrounding this tribal council. Apparently what happened is Mark Burnett, the executive producer on the show, came to the beach and talked to Sean and Dirk. Allegedly, it's like, hey, you guys should vote for Stacy, not Rudy, because Rudy's better TV than Stacy. Dirk and Sean have said, yes, he came to the beach, but he just told us to vote our conscience. Stacy maintains that production interfered to get her voted out of the game. She sued the show, and it was settled out of court. She won some money, though.
Oh.
So,
I mean, I don't want to posit either way. I would believe that Dirk and Sean would be under some kind of NDA, so they can't actually talk about what went down. But it also could be they didn't want Stacy to go public with this knowledge that he had been on the beach. So it really could have been what they said, and that could just count as interference. The court could look at him even showing up on the beach at all, Mark showing up at the beach at all. But I don't want to really issue too much of an opinion on this.
Yeah, it's tough.
So do you think if there would have been no alleged production interference, would this vote have been different?
Impossible to say. Maybe, though.
And that's why I'm asking for your opinion. What do you think would have happened?
Boy, well, it's tough because Dirk and Sean are not the brightest bulbs, and it's hard to get into their headspace. What were they thinking? Especially with Dirk, we have no idea what he's ever thinking because he's such a minor character, and he's going to go soon anyway. Sean is not the brightest bulb, and I don't know what he's thinking ever, and I can't understand what he's thinking. Would they have voted for Stacy or Rudy? I think there's more evidence to support them being annoyed with Rudy than Stacy. I think they would have voted for Rudy. So, yes, I think production interfered. But, again, I have no idea. This is season 1. They want this to go well.
You need it to go well.
You need it to go well, otherwise there's no more show. Also, I'd rather have Rudy on my screen than Stacy. Let's not make this a precedent, but if we had to do it once, this is the place to do it.
Yep.
So, whatever.
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with it.
If you have to screw over Stacy in order to get 40 seasons of Survivor, and counting,
and Rudy into the merge,
yes,
worth it.
I'm absolutely worth it.
I guess the question is, just on paper, is it the right vote, Stacy or Rudy?
I think it depends on who you are on the tribe. If you are someone who is aligned with Stacy, who Stacy is more aligned with the women, that's not the right vote. If you are Dirk or Sean or Richard, and I guess Dirk and Sean are kind of their own, pairing, so they would need to pick. They're kind of swing votes here. They don't call them swing votes, but they are. But if you're Richard, you don't want Rudy to go home because you've gotten close with him.
Same with Sue. So the question is, did Dirk and Sean make the right move?
I have no idea.
It's hard to say.
It's really hard to say.
I'm gonna call it a wash. I don't think it really matters either way. I do think that you will get more loyalty out of Rudy,
and I think he's just more useful in general than Stacy.
Yeah, if you're putting yourself into the shoes of exactly what's going to happen on this show, like we do now, I would say that Rudy's the better person to keep along just because you would need to have allies post-merge. And, I mean, you would have learned more about Stacy, but from what I remember and what from you guys have seen, it might just be easier at this point for them to just vote out Stacy.
Yeah. And actually, I just thought of something because I'm going to try and bring in New School here. From a new school perspective, absolutely Stacy. She's already attempted scheming and plotting. Yeah. You got rid of one schemer and plotter, and you're keeping Rudy, who is not a schemer, not a plotter.
Nope.
He just wants to assimilate and make it to the end. So as long as he feels like he's being included, he will be loyal. So to me, Stacy's absolutely the right move here, but it's a little bit more difficult when you try and get into each of their headspaces at the time.
Sure.
So, Ryan, now that we have talked about who was voted out, who would you say is the best and the worst player of the episode?
Best player of the episode is Richard Hatch. He delivered on his promise about fishing, but again, there's not a whole lot going on in this episode, but Richard delivering on his promise about fishing. Worst player, I honestly almost had nothing, so I have one distinction, and that's Kelly Wigglesworth. It was on the wrong side of the vote. That is all I had for this episode. There's not much to work with here.
I don't have any quarrels with that, so
yeah.
Cool.
I agree.
So, Derek, one thing we kind of wanted to do is that we have a fun segment. Derek is our Survivor meteorologist because the weather is a huge factor on Survivor, and just along the way, we're going to check in with Derek, get a weather report from him, if there's any bad weather, anything to note with the weather, and just see if there's any effect on the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So here, just recently, it was night 9 on the island. They had their first real thunderstorm. I'm pretty sure that Jeff actually does not send this tribe back to the beach. He allows them to stay there because it gets so bad, and he doesn't want to send them back. It rained, it thunderbanged, it lightninged really badly, and you want to know what? Coming right into this next episode on number 4, they're talking about how all the bugs came out. All of this stuff is going to come into play. And then right here on the horizon, coming in later, we're going to have another really bad thunderstorm where everyone is just kind of in a groggy, solemn mood afterward. And that's going to be coming up on night 18. So we're going to have 2 storms here in the pre-merge that both are going to affect the mindsets and the mentality and the fortitudes of these players. And it's something that's kind of lost, again, on Modern Survivor. They complain about the rain, but it's all about the social game. This was season 1, and this hurt.
Yeah. Stacy's end of show confessionals, like right after she gets voted out, normally you do a confessional like, oh, this is my time on the show. Stacy didn't get to do it till the next day because the storm was so bad. So basically what we want to do with these weather segments is we're trying to figure out like what was the toughest season weather and environmentally. And so we'll just keep track of this as we go over the show and see what stands out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Episode 4, Too Little Too Late. We start off with, after the storm, Gretchen is very frustrated with this tribe. She doesn't like that the shelter's out on the beach because she did some survivalist stuff. She knows the shelter should be in the jungle with a canopy. And so she gets everybody to move the shelter. I thought this was kind of risky on Gretchen's part, my winner pick. Getting that frustrated and that angry and kind of lashing out a little bit, like, guys, this is unacceptable. It worked out for her. Nobody got too mad at her, but it's like you don't want to be the one to cause that kind of drama.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in a later season, this would cause strife. Funny thing is, she's right.
She's totally right.
Modern seasons of Survivor, you never see the shelter out on the beach anymore. They made that mistake, and I think she actually mentioned that in episode 1 to BB. We should not be building this here. We should be building it under cover of trees.
But BB was stubborn.
So she's been thinking about this for 10 days now, and it's just been bothering her, and bam, first storm, camp's trashed, and she is frustrated.
She was smart to let him do it, though. It let other people hang themselves in the game.
Absolutely. If BB was still there, that would be a point against him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't really remember this happening, but even if you like mention it subtly and then stuff starts happening, like the tide comes up or whatever, or you realize that it's like really hot in the shelter and people kind of just see that, you maybe can like touch on it back and just be like, hey, so maybe we do move it up there, and just kind of casually bring it up every once in a while.
Yeah. It's something to like just throw out there. Just like toss a little grenade into a conversation. It might blow up, it might not.
Inception.
People might just be like, oh man, that Gretchen, she sure is smart.
But don't lash out like this. It's not always going to blow up in your face, and Gretchen's lucky it didn't.
And maybe it's because she has that leadership role.
Sure.
Where it's kind of her and Greg at this point have risen to the top of Pagong as the leaders of the tribe. And even the opposing tribe views it that way. As specifically, they mentioned Greg, but you can see it.
Yeah. So next up, let's talk about Sue versus Sean. To work or not to work? Sue's kind of the workhorse. Sean's very lazy.
And we get a really funny quote coming up here where Sue will say, did you go fishing yesterday? And Sean says, yeah. Did you catch anything? Nope. Well, it was a waste of time then. It's great, and it shows the dichotomies of their personality, where Sean is just easygoing, pretty lackadaisical, and Sue's like, if you're not going to be useful, you're worthless to me.
Mm-hmm. Go be useful somewhere else, basically.
Yeah. So I say, Sue, you got to try and not stir the pot. But again, if the general mentality of the tribe is getting frustrated with Sean being lazy, then get frustrated. If he's the talk of the camp, it's better than you being the talk of the camp.
It's true. You need to play this up in your favor.
Yeah.
Richard, Sue, Kelly, and Rudy, they work hard. The other two do not, Sean and Dirk. So the four of you vent about that together. It'll bond you.
Yeah.
And just talk shit about Sean and Dirk when they're not around.
Yeah.
That's great. Sean and Dirk, you need to read the room. The majority of the tribe wants to work hard. Work hard. If the majority of the tribe doesn't want to do anything, don't do anything.
And remember, it's for $1 million. Sean's a doctor. Maybe he doesn't really care about this as much.
Sean doesn't care about this. Sean wants to be an actor.
So, if you're thinking about, again, motivations of these players, what drives you? He's a doctor. He wants to be an actor. He's not worried about the money. He's getting his exposure.
He wants to be America's sweetheart.
And you know
Won't
what?
happen, but that's what he wants.
So, looking at his motivation, I can see why he's doing what he's doing, but it's the wrong move to win the $1 million.
And it's the wrong move to endear America, because everybody thinks he's lazy.
Yep.
What is kind of smart is while these fights are happening, Richard is just kind of sitting back and letting it happen. Because he's smart. If there's conflict happening between other players, it's not happening with you.
Exactly what I just said.
Yep.
If you're not the talk of the camp, then you're probably not going home.
Yeah, you got two moves, basically. Either try to rise higher than other people by maybe toss them under the bus. Maybe not super obvious, but, just a little nudge underneath the bus is okay. Or in Richard's case, sit back and watch other people as they're being nudged under the bus.
And what's funny is Richard's a corporate trainer. He kind of deals with this kind of stuff. Personality conflicts. How do you overcome this to get a good work environment going? He knows how to fix this. He's not going to do it because it benefits him to not do it.
And we did mention everyone's profession
Yes.
Right at the beginning of the episode, but I think Richard's is one of the positions that gives you the most advantage for this scenario.
Social
the
dynamics.
scenario of Survivor and how people interact. And when you're even on something like a corporate level for communication, handling multiple different types of personalities that are just all together in a workplace or on a beach.
Yep. Yeah, he's come a long way since his episode 1 trying to get people to talk about talking.
He's shown that he's good with people.
Yep. Good enough to form an alliance with Kelly and Sue. So our first real alliance of the game is formed between Kelly, Sue, and Richard. We have one. Rudy does not want to join this alliance, which he'll eventually change his mind during this pre-merge, but for now, this is not the right move. If someone asks you if you want to join an alliance, you say yes. Ghostbusters rule.
Yeah, and that's more just his personality. I'm assuming it just doesn't feel right for him. So and he'd probably be more comfortable with like a two-person, like him and Richard or something, rather than pairing up with these other two people that he probably isn't super close with.
Well, if you want to be comfortable, it'll be very comfortable on the pre-jury trip.
Well, and taking that perspective, because I like what you said, I think partially his military background, he is thinking everyone should be on equal footing. We shouldn't put ourselves on pedestals. We should let the cream of the crop rise to the top on their own. This is kind of sticking your hands in the gears and manipulating as a puppet master a little bit. And he probably isn't comfortable with that. But as the great Disney villain Scar once said, life's not fair,
Yes.
is it? So, sometimes the only way to rise to the top is to use unconventional means, and this game has a stopping point. It's not like you have to live this lie and live this way forever. You just got to get to the $1 million again.
Do you want to win or not? That is the question.
Yeah.
Going over to Jenna Lewis, we haven't talked about her much yet, but I kind of like this because she forms a very good relationship with Ramona. Ramona's like, yeah, so this might be my first white friend in a long time. And Jenna's like, yeah, I'm voting her out. She's not. It's too little, too late. And it's just like, savage. And that's the mentality you have. You're voting somebody out. Be friends with them. Stab them in the back.
I absolutely don't remember it, but that's a great move, and I
Well, I mean, in general, I would say so far, Jenna's been very quiet in this pre-merge. She hasn't really done much. She's just been kind of a face in the crowd because the Pagong tribe is dominated by Greg for his just ridiculousness. Colleen is giving production exactly what they want for dirt and gossip and drama in their confessionals. And then you've had the drama surrounding BB and Gretchen blowing up. But in general, Jenna's just been kind of invisible, which isn't bad.
Until this episode.
But yeah, pre-merge, she's not there. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she's making friends and voting them out.
Yep.
Well, and if you're talking about pre-merge, that's a thing to do.
Keep your head down.
Keep your head down and survive until you can make better alliances at the merge.
One more thing real quick. Jervis is awful at this challenge. He ends up having to walk in the sprinting portion of it. So Jervis is terrible at the challenge.
Oh, this was the digging up the treasure chests and the worst.
I forgot how terrible he is.
Jervis is really bad at most of these challenges. But let's get to the vote here, because Jenna will finally get thrown into the mix, because she's kind of annoying, I guess. She talks a lot, which we haven't seen a ton of.
Which I do remember that later on in the season.
Colleen for being weak? What? That's out of nowhere.
That is absolutely out of nowhere. It wasn't for lack of her effort that they lost that immunity challenge.
No.
And was that Jenna who suggested that?
No, that was Jervis and Ramona who vote for Colleen for being weak.
Especially coming from Jervis.
Yeah, that's funny. That's rich. And not Hatch either. And then Ramona, she's been on the out. She's been sick. She's doing a lot better now. But as Jenna says, title of the episode, a little too late. Who says it like that?
A little too late.
My question is, why not Jervis? He sucks at these challenges. He can't swim. He's lazy. He doesn't do anything around camp. Why not Jervis? And we'll find out why not Jervis a little bit later. I think Jervis is the person to vote out here.
Well, I mean, and it might be, looking back on it, it might be more of just like a guy versus girl type thing. Maybe even though Jervis isn't as great in challenges, you just automatically assume that he's going to be better in the future. That's a terrible stance to take.
Yep.
But maybe there's something there with that.
And he will do very well in one future challenge for sure. Against Kelly Wigglesworth in the rowboat challenge where he'll destroy her. But besides that, he sucks at challenges.
Mm-hmm.
He lost the bug eating challenge for this one. He lost this one for him. He's going to lose another one for him, I think. But he's not good at these challenges.
And I agree with you. I think that for those reasons, you'd think that Jervis should be on the chopping block. Why isn't he not? I guess, yeah, we'll visit that in a second. But to give my opinion, I think Ramona is the right choice. Because in general, she hasn't been able to establish herself as well in the tribe. They did give her a bit of a redemption arc. I mean, I do think production was going for as much of a feel-good story for everyone as they could so far. Make everyone likable, not stir the pot. Not yet, anyway.
Yep.
So they give her a bit of a redemption. She's helping around camp. She's doing better. She's making friends. Gone.
Just not enough. And people hadn't bonded with her as much because she'd been sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, Jervis has a really good personality.
Yep.
So, I mean, there's the social game right there. Even if we haven't really seen it too much come into play for necessarily like votes yet, other than like a BB or something.
Yeah.
That might have been just as much of an influence when you're talking about someone being sick and being away from people and just not wanting to talk.
You don't get to play the social game as much when you're sick.
I mean, like, just think when you're, like, any of us are sick, like, I don't want to talk to anyone. I want to lay there and just be quiet and with my head down and do nothing.
So between the three women who got votes, I think Ramona's the right move.
Absolutely. I agree.
But Jervis is the real right move, I think.
It depends. Just in general, I could see it both ways. I don't know how sick Ramona still was at this time, and if it's been this long and she's still kind of sick, that tells me that she's never going to be 100% in this game.
Sure.
It doesn't really sit well with me, and you have to start thinking more, if you're going to think like Modern Survivor, going along with people who you've bonded with.
Sure.
So even if he would be someone who is weaker at challenges, I think I still would keep Jervis.
With that, Ryan, Ramona obviously goes home, so she can't win, but who would you say are the best and worst players of the episode?
Well, best is Richard Hatch again. He allows the Sean and Dirk and Sue fights to happen and just sits back. He also gets in the alliance with Sue and Kelly. So he knows to let the conflict happen and knows to get into the numbers. And worst player of the episode is Sean for irritating both Sue and Richard with his lazy work ethic and negative attitude.
Again, stirring the pot.
Dr. Sean.
I would agree. Just because I haven't really seen the episode, I would maybe toss out Jervis for that, just showing how weak it is. But, I mean, I can't really... It's hard for me to say one way or the other, so I think I'd have to agree with you.
Well, the thing is with that, like, yeah, he did terrible in the challenge, but nobody even mentioned his name as a possibility going home.
And nobody saw him walking during the challenge either. He waited till he was out in the jungle to walk. So,
really?
So no one saw that. Anything could have happened.
I mean, you would know that he's taking a while, but...
Like, he gave up.
Yeah, people didn't see it. Episode 5, pulling your own weight. So the first thing that happens with this episode is Sue calls out Sean and Dirk again for being lazy. Again, just like in the last episode, don't do this. Let them sink.
So at a certain point, there might be a benefit to doing that, though. If you know that these two people are firmly on the bottom and you are solid in your own alliance, and everyone in your alliance also agrees that these two people should be not lazy and try to actually do something around camp, there might be some benefit of calling them out and just getting it out in the open there.
You will endear yourself to your alliance, but you're going to alienate Sean and Dirk even more. So
You have to be completely sure that they're going to be going home then.
yes. So I say if you're going to do this, no, actually don't do this. Let somebody else in your alliance do this, but you don't do this.
And, I know this kind of skips toward the end of the episode a little bit, but Rudy joins this alliance. So we've got Richard, we've got Rudy, we've got Sue, and we have Kelly Wigglesworth. That's the numbers, 4-2. Sue just feels safe. Even without Rudy, if any one of those other 3 votes for someone, the 3 is majority vote.
Yep.
So she feels safe. And Sue is someone who we find out loves to speak her mind. She does not hold back. She does not pull punches, and she feels safe. I mean, she was obviously making really maybe cold comments earlier in these episodes, but she's really laying into them because she knows she's safe.
Which is a mistake.
I agree it's a mistake, but she knows she's safe. It's not a good move, but hey, it's what happens.
Maybe bring it out into the open, but just don't be abrasive about it.
Don't do it.
Talk about it in secret.
Let somebody else in your alliance do it. You talk to them, and maybe you can egg them on. Yeah, you should say something. Yeah, don't they suck? Work quietly from the shadows. Be the puppet master. Don't be the one who actually confronts anybody. So we have on Pagan, Greg, basically, he's kind of seen as the leader. He doesn't want to be the leader, but he kind of is. But it's smart that he doesn't want to be the leader. It's never a good position to be in.
And we haven't talked a lot about Greg,
No.
but can we just please take a moment to acknowledge that he is one of the most memorable people on this season.
Josh did not remember his name, but remembered the coconut phone.
Everyone remembers the coconut phone.
Yep.
I ended up remembering his name.
And for those of you not in the know...
Oh, eventually, you did.
And for those of you not in the know, the coconut phone, he just takes a coconut to his ear and he starts talking to the logistics division. He starts talking to processing. He starts talking to the manager, to corporate, and he starts ordering, we need these provisions. And he'll stop work in the middle of everything so that he can have this conversation on his phone. And he to the camera says this is a form of mental rest. This is how he stays sane on the island. And Gretchen, I agreed with Gretchen. Gretchen calls him out. He's manipulating the camp with these antics.
She does this in confessional.
She does this in confessional, not publicly. She says, he's absolutely manipulating all of them. He has unknowingly bent everyone to his schedule. They do by him with him because he does this. I think she's right.
I think Gretchen might be the only person who sees Greg for what he really is. Maybe Colleen, but she sees that she knows exactly what Greg is doing.
And this goes to Gretchen's experience as a teacher.
Yeah.
We know that Greg is an Ivy League graduate. If that is his occupation, he's still pretty young.
Yep.
And as a teacher, she's going to be able to read what kind of student he is. And she can already see. So good on her for noticing it. It doesn't really come into play at all, but Greg is such a character. He has so many great quotes.
Love Greg. Real quick, Richard fucks around with a poisonous snake and grabs it by the tail and whips it into the water. Don't do this. This is bad.
He didn't even do it in front of everyone.
Yeah, he was just showing off in front of the camera. He's like, I don't care about snakes. I got no problem with them. No, okay, it's a poisonous snake. If you get bit by this and you screw up, you're out of the game. Maybe dead. Don't do this. This is bad.
But he wants to see it swim, Ryan. He just wants to see it swim.
Or you just chop its head off and eat it.
It's a great moment. Don't do this. Nobody do this. So we cut to the rowing immunity challenge. Jervis wins against river raft guide Kelly, which is really kind of crazy.
Great television.
Great TV.
Hilarious.
So good.
Because Kelly's just sitting there quiet. She's saying, I can't believe I got beat at a water challenge by a guy who can't even swim. And it wasn't close.
It was not close. She got destroyed. This sends Toggy to tribal council. And basically, it's Sean versus Dirk. Who do you vote out here? And what we've been seeing about Dirk is he's getting super skinny. He's lost a ton of weight, and people are actually worried about his health. Plus, with the whole preaching thing. And while Sean is annoying, he and Dirk are kind of partners on that. And I think with the health issues that Dirk is facing, I think Dirk is the clear vote here.
Yeah, I would agree too. And then you might even be able to get Sean to come out of his lazy attitude by voting off his one basically partner on the show.
Kind of scare him straight a little bit.
Yeah.
And I don't agree. I agree with the vote, but I don't agree with the reason. I think the devil you know, and you know that Sean is going to be a bit of a wild card. You know for sure he's not going to join in any alliance with the other team.
You know that?
I think you know it better than you know what Dirk is going to end up doing.
Maybe.
And if for no other reason than that, I think you go with the devil you know. And if Dirk is more of a wild card, which to me he was, and he was more adversarial for that reason, I say go send him home.
Yeah, I think Dirk's the right move. Sean votes for Rudy. Sean and Dirk votes for Sue. They can't even get on the same page. if we're going to go off the theory, vote out the weakest person who's not in your alliance, then Rudy's the correct vote for those two.
Yeah.
From their perspective, Rudy should be the one who goes home, but that's not going to happen because they're not in the alliance.
Yep.
I think for them, it would even be okay voting for Sue.
Yeah, I guess, but they should have at least been on the same page.
Oh, absolutely.
For
I
real.
don't think there's any discussion about that. Now that we're done with Tribal again, who do you think is the best and worst of the episode?
Best again, Richard Hatch, for being part of the alliance. And at Tribal Council, Jeff asked him a question that is kind of about alliances, and Richard has an extremely nice dodge of the question, like completely. He's like, nope, not going to do that, but gives him another like BS answer, and it's very well done on Richard's part. So I think I got to give it to Richard.
So was that asked by Jeff?
Yes.
Because he knew it was going on, or like...
That's the question.
I mean, first season, obviously there might
knew.
be a little meddling here.
He knew.
But I feel like if Jeff didn't have any insight as to what was going around at camp, I don't think he asked that question.
He definitely had some insight to what was going on at camp. So he asked the question, and Jeff is going to dial back on these kind of questions, starting with season 2 even. He's going to do this again very famously in season 1 here. But this is like a precursor to the big moment that he does this in season 1. Yeah, but Richard just dodges it very nicely. Like, just nope, not going to do that. Worst player is Sean for being lazy, not wanting to be part of an alliance, and being on the wrong side of the vote.
Only because you can't vote for Dirk, too.
Yeah, exactly. So our final episode we're going to talk about in this podcast is episode 6, Utter Revenge. Jeff kind of reminds us all the merge is the next episode because, this is the first time we've seen the show, so that's on everybody's minds. So we start off with the slaughter of a chicken. Pagong won chickens in the previous reward challenge, and they're going to slaughter it. It's really not that big a deal, but Colleen does not want to be part of the actual killing. She's down with eating it, but she doesn't want to be around for the actual killing of the chicken. So let's talk a little bit about proper chicken slaughtering etiquette.
Yeah, it's a classic case of not wanting to know how your meat is made.
Yeah.
And this is still relevant in Modern Survivor.
It's crazy that this still comes up.
I cannot understand why this is still a topic even in the most recent Survivor seasons. Just be okay with it. And if you're not,
don't say a word.
Walk away from the situation because you're not going to end up winning and you're just going to kind of put yourself on the outside.
Here's exactly what you say when they're getting ready to slaughter chicken. Say, I'm going to go get some firewood.
Absolutely.
You get firewood. It's the appearance that you're helping. You are actually helping, and you get away from the situation.
I'm going to go boil the water.
Anything.
I'm even okay. I would even say it's okay to say, not super comfortable with it, so I'm just gonna go get some firewood. You guys do your thing, but it's just something that I would be like queasy over or something like that.
I don't even think you say that. Maybe if you're a vegetarian, you say, "Hey, I'm not gonna eat any. You guys can have my portion because I'm a vegetarian, but I will help you get the fire ready, and then be helpful and get firewood, boil the water, something."
And I think what you Ryan and you Josh, what you're kind of getting at here is a difference in ideology. Ryan's approach is like, hey, we are going for the million, and I am going to assimilate, I am going to chameleon, and I am going to be a helper around camp, and I am not going to give anyone any ammo against me. Now, that is obviously the very safe route. Josh's route is going to help possibly, and it's a risk, build that social game. People know you a little bit better, and as long as you don't get in the way, which is what Josh said, like, you don't stop it, you don't have to necessarily help, but just letting people know, like, hey, this is just something about me, I'm totally cool with it, I don't want to be around for it. If you have to say something that is the way to say it, you just can't get in the way. I do, for gameplay purposes, agree. You don't do it. You try and assimilate, but I absolutely see where you're coming from, and you might be able to bond with someone if there are more than one person who's uncomfortable.
Which happened recently. There was a recent season where there was multiple vegetarians on a season, and that they bonded over that.
Mm-hmm. And I would actually like to kind of piggyback off your comment, because I do think that it can be a bad thing for someone to be too much of a chameleon. And it seems like that's something that would happen to you if you were on Survivor.
Okay.
Because you do take a very just neutral approach on all these things, but I think you do need to have more of a... That's something that will get you really far in the game, but I don't think you'll win.
No, I always say be the chameleon through the pre-merge. And parts of the early post-merge too. Eventually you got to come out and reveal your true colors.
Because I think if you just like let out like these little tidbits, but don't be polarizing with them, don't disagree with anyone on them, don't be super preachy with them, which we have seen in way too many times, especially with something as simple as a chicken. As long as you're not doing anything way out there with any of these topics, I think that's okay, because I think it just builds you as a person, and you're not going to share all those same thoughts and beliefs with a single person. But if you have one here and one here and one here, those are actually people who, even if you don't decide to align with in the game, it might have some sort of influence later on with how they view you just as a person as a whole.
Maybe if someone brings it up first, don't be the first person to bring this up. I don't want to give anybody any ammo against me. And this could be ammo. Even something saying, like, I'm uncomfortable with this, but I will help you, like, I guess. But just saying you're uncomfortable with it, it's potential ammo.
And I guess the reason why that's not something that would be super serious for me is I feel like if someone is looking for ammo, they're going to find it or they're going to make it up. Fair. So I don't know if that's something that would be a huge cause to worry.
Yeah, this is, I mean, and this is my takeaway from your point, and I'm finding myself more on Josh's side here. It humanizes you a little bit. And in the way that it humanizes you is if you have something about you that people know and they're thinking about, that's one less moment where they're thinking about you as a schemer and a plotter. One less moment where they're thinking about you as someone who's manipulating. Now, again, this can be used as ammo, but being a little vulnerable and letting people in to know the real you, as long as you're not getting in the way, it might be a better move.
I agree with you on that point, but not about vegetarianism and chickens. That's not the one you want to be vulnerable about.
And I'm just saying, you have to read the room. Yeah. Obviously, this is all subjective.
Sure.
To get back to the episode, I think that Colleen does this in a very harmless way. In the way that she does it, I think she is okay. She's like, I don't want to know where my meat is coming from. I don't want to be a part of it. But she's not saying don't slaughter the chicken.
No, but she is saying enough where people are like, oh, I mean, if you're not comfortable with it, you got to get comfortable with it. I got the sense that it, at the very least, annoyed Gretchen, maybe some of the others. Don't annoy anybody.
And that's where it's reading the room.
Yep.
If it's something where you can have a vulnerable human moment, maybe it's worth it. But in general, maybe you could even use it as a growing opportunity. If you're willing to go out there and rise above something and be open-minded, like we discussed earlier, you say, I'm not comfortable with this, but if you guys don't mind, I'd like to kind of be here. I can't be of much use, but I can do what I can. Maybe I can be here for this.
I think I have this. Vulnerable human moments are good. You don't want to have them with a group. You want to have them in a one-on-one location. Because if you have it with a group, they can use it as a rallying point against you. If you have this with one-on-one conversations, they can't really rally this. They could talk about you behind your back at the very worst, and that's a little trickier to do when the other people aren't familiar with this.
And maybe that's true.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point.
So be vulnerable one-on-one, not in a group. But let's move on to Richard Hatch being naked, which is like the most iconic image of this series, possibly. This is just Richard Hatch walking around naked. Don't do this.
Don't do this. Unsolid move. What good can come of this?
Nothing.
We already talked about making people uncomfortable. But again, is this just a flex? Is this just Richard saying, I'm in the majority alliance. You can't touch me.
Maybe, but it's annoying his own alliance, so...
I agree.
I don't understand this. It just does not make sense. This is one of those things that you do remember, even if you haven't watched the season in 6 years like me.
There's people who've never seen the show who know this.
Yes, exactly.
This was the most famous part of Survivor 1.
Yeah.
And it's a terrible, terrible move from Richard Hatch.
Great move for the show.
An iconic move. Unless your entire tribe is naked already, you do not get naked. If you are on a tribe of nudists or like rowdy teenagers who are like, let's get naked and go skinny dipping, fine, go ahead. Otherwise, no, keep your duds on.
Yeah, I don't even think I have anything else to say because that's
such a bad.
I feel like it's such an easy decision.
And this plays into the social game. Which why don't we go over to Pagong and see how the social game is going over there? Because we have Jervis akinning women to a certain dairy producing animal.
To quote, Jervis says something along the lines of, and he's trying to make it a joke, but he fails miserably. But he says something along the lines of that women are the stupidest thing on the planet next to cows. Boy, what a great idea this was, Jervis.
And I understand. They try and give him context later where he was saying when you're in a relationship with someone, you're going to do stupid things, and he was coming at it from the guy's perspective. This is still no.
No.
You never say this. This is so bad.
You're offending half your tribe.
You're offending half the world's population. Yeah. You're offending half of America.
And I don't know if you're trying to just be that point of like comedic relief, which is very good on a tribe, a la Greg.
Yep, Greg.
But this definitely misses the boat.
Yes. Think about positives and minuses. What is the best possible outcome? Okay, everybody laughs. Great. You can do that with other jokes too. What is the negative? At the very least, half your tribe hates you.
And votes you out.
Yeah, the social game.
Yeah, because all of a sudden we have people in confessionals actively saying, what does Jervis even do here? And then we have cut to Jervis. I don't get firewood. I don't prepare the food or the rice. I've never done that in my life. I don't know how to swim. I don't fish.
I didn't build the shelter.
All I have is charisma.
My charm.
And then they show Colleen. She's saying he doesn't do anything, but he's a really nice guy.
He wasn't so nice today, though, so maybe he'll get voted out this time.
Yeah. So Jervis
is describing the social game.
This is the social game.
This is the single most important element to play Survivor, is the social game. And Jervis has it in spades until this joke comes up.
Yeah, he survives 2 episodes without even having his name thrown out simply because he was a good dude.
He sucks at challenges, but he's funny and charming until this cow joke. But even this, he plays this off somehow and gets all the fire dumped on Joel. Joel laughed at the joke. And Joel's gonna get voted out. Because Jervis just like chucks him under the bus.
And it's incredible maneuvering of a situation. It's obviously a bad move, but all you can do after a bad move is try and dig yourself out of the hole. And right at Tribal Council, we have, I think it was Colleen say, well, Joel kind of had his foot in on this joke, and he's a bit of a chauvinist.
And Jervis says, like, this sounds like something Joel would say. I don't know why you think it was me.
Why did that work?
Well, and I mean, if you're thinking of, like, you have a slip of the tongue, like, I don't know if he was actually, like, meant it, like, in a terrible way or was just trying to just make a joke to be, like, lighthearted. But if you end up saying something that was not taken the way that you intended it to be taken, do your best to try to just shift everything and try to, like, say literally anything else to get people to forget about it.
Jurors should go into politics. That's what we get from this.
Yeah, I think, on a player-to-player move, what you do is you try and pull each of those girls aside and say, hey, I messed up.
I'm really sorry.
I think the best you can do is own up to it and try and move on. But, I mean, if it comes down to it, yeah, throwing Joel under the bus worked. But I think if I'm dropped in, parachute, and I'm Jervis in that moment, you have to pull him aside one-on-one and say, hey, I realize that this did not come across well.
I'm sorry, I did not mean to offend you, something like that.
Yeah, you know how I am around camp. I'm charismatic.
Don't say that.
Fine, maybe don't say that.
Fine, that's fine. But, like, you know me well enough as a person. I didn't mean ill will. I like to make people happy.
I was just trying to make a joke, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Clearly, that was not a smart joke to make. You didn't find it funny, and that's okay. This is my bad. Stuff like that.
Yep.
Jervis doesn't really do that, but somehow gets out of this anyway.
And maybe he did just off camera.
Could be.
Who knows? We only have an hour, so.
So yeah, this is the most important component of the game, and we get it nicely framed for us for the first time with the Jervis. Moving on to the reward challenge, really briefly, Richard screws up hardcore and gets his whole tribe DQ'd by being a little bit arrogant and not really listening to what item he was supposed to grab. And grabs the wrong item, brings it back, gets DQ'd. And it's just a little bit of arrogance from Richard here. It's not a great episode for him.
Not a great episode, not a great look for Richard. I just want to plug the challenges so far really quickly, because anyone who watches New School Survivor, I don't want to say that sometimes they feel like glorified carnival games, but sometimes they just feel very carnival-ish.
Yep.
These challenges haven't been like that so far. You've got one where you're lighting torches, just kind of walking through the jungle. Another one that was building a gurney and going and rescuing someone. It was very survival based.
Yep.
And in modern Survivor, you almost never see a DQ flat out like this. Like this, it was very anticlimactic. Obviously, he messed up, but these challenges are really odd so far.
Yeah, they're different.
I do really miss the SOS challenges.
The SOS challenges.
They
are
haven't
fun.
done those in such a long time.
I can't remember.
There might be a reason for it. I think that is such a unique and different challenge that
I wish they'd do it again. It'd be fun.
Yeah, that is just as much a team bonding like experience, and then you have like the suspenseful moment of, oh, are they going to drop something? They fly overhead once, they fly overhead twice. Oh, they didn't drop anything.
Yeah, it'd be cool just to do like a throwback, maybe in season 40, do something like that.
Mm-hmm. That'd be really cool.
We have an alliance going on Taji, but on Pagong, Joel can I suggest bringing together a Pagong alliance. And people are like, you know what? I will vote out Taji people before I vote out Pagong people, but it's not really an alliance. And Gretchen's like, I don't want in on this, which is bad for our winner pick.
Your winner pick.
Yeah, you're fine. But,
sorry, my winner pick is in an alliance right now, guys.
come on, Gretchen. Join the alliance.
And, this piggybacks off the social game in a little bit. You are putting up a shield to that social game a bit if you're in an alliance. And Tagi has shown that they are serious about getting far in this game because they know that 4 is better than 1. And I think even the movie 300 says it best. If you have 300 super well-trained, diligent, and hard-working individuals, they can defeat an army that's haphazard. So even if they were to go in without the numbers, it'd be really easy to switch one person over and say, hey, come with us. You will be safe until the top 5.
Or just know that the other tribe doesn't communicate votes.
The tighter alliance wins usually.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily matter how big it is. The tighter alliance wins.
And we see Pagong being loosey-goosey. We need solid commitment because it's obvious at this point going into the merge, the game is going to change. And Pagong does not. They did not jump on that train.
Nope.
Great social experiment.
So Joel, we get a long montage sequence of him saying he's not a chauvinist and doing kind of chauvinistic things. Joel kind of sucks.
Yeah,
it's very comedic though.
The word wasn't a thing at the time, but mansplaining, he did a lot of it in this little cutaway.
Yeah, this would be, you want a definition of mansplaining, watch this sequence with Joel. That's
Joe would not be a well-liked person on a modern season.
No, and maybe he's changed just how he behaves.
People change. I mean,
people change.
You do have to remember this was 2000.
Very different time.
Which you can still be a good person or a bad person in the year 2000, but just people's attitudes, people's vocabulary, that kind of stuff.
A little more
that has evolved,
I guess.
Yeah, and we also have to remember editing bias. Yep. So, I mean, I'm not saying that Joel is or is not a chauvinist, and I'm going to stay away from that topic because I don't know him. But
that's true.
What they gave us, they had enough to give you a reel.
A long reel. You have Gretchen, Jenna, and Colleen all just dragging him through the mud. You know, if it looks like a cow and moves like a cow,
was that a pun?
There's multiple jokes here.
More cow jokes, huh?
Yeah, so Joel is not great at Survivor. He's good at the challenges. He's got some strategic jobs, but his social game is lacking. And he's going to go home here, and he's like the Captain America of the group. Like, he's just a big, strong guy, and the fact that he goes home pre-merge, kind of crazy, but I think that speaks to how important the social game is.
They stopped seeing such an importance on someone who can pull their tribe through, and I don't know if they knew that the merge was coming the very next episode. They did.
They were told that.
Well, then that might have influenced it a little bit too, and known, okay, it's gonna be me working on my own, basically.
Don't need him anymore.
Yeah,
and I don't like him. Bye.
Yep.
So with that, I mean, is Joel the right vote at this?
Well, hold on. I want to talk about the immunity challenge first because there's a little bit of conspiracy about this challenge. This is normally this challenge, it's 5 against 6 right now, so one person would sit out to be a 5v5 challenge. This was a 4v4 challenge. Basically, the consensus is they made this because they could have found a way to make 5 people run this challenge. Pretty easy. It's an obstacle course. But they wanted Rudy to sit out because they wanted Rudy to make the merge. That's the conspiracy about this challenge.
So what would that change, anything, if he would participate or not?
Rudy's pretty weak.
So, for context, the challenge was a Marines training obstacle course. So
I feel like Rudy should do that one. I mean,
not at 72.
Not at 72, but I feel like that would have been great TV to say, like, this is something that would be right in Rudy's wheelhouse at a younger age, to be fair. But see how he kind of, like, stacks up now.
And that's why there's conspiracy surrounding, though, because it was really close.
Really close.
Really close. I mean, we're talking game of inches. And if you put someone who's 72 in there trying to climb over a wall, trying to go under ropes, trying to carry a large beam and plant it in the ground, I can see where this can become a little bit of a conspiracy.
They won by 2 feet, maybe.
So who are the people who sat out?
Jervis and Colleen, and then Rudy.
Oh, so instead of having no one sit out and one person on the other side, it was 2 and 1.
Yeah,
got it.
And I think there's a conspiracy here.
Possible, but it's still the first season, so it's hard to know what their general plan was.
But yeah, regardless, you know,
Pagong loses,
has to go to tribal council, and
the votes come in Joel or Jenna. Jervis and Joel vote for Jenna because she's annoying and weak. Everybody else votes for Joel. I can get rid of Joel here. If you don't like him and you just want to get rid of somebody who you're not as close with and who's could win all the immunity challenges going forward, Joel's a perfectly fine vote here.
Yeah. I think it's the right choice.
I agree, but again, Jervis has wiggled his way out of a slimy situation. Good job.
Well, and if you are thinking more with the mindset of we're going into the merge here really, really soon, I I see no reason now to get rid of Jervis. He's proved that he sucks at challenges for the most part, unless he's rowing a boat. But so why not bring along someone who could potentially be an ally of yours and who has not proven to take any of the immunity challenges?
And he's charming. Maybe you can get somebody from Tagi to jump over.
Which would be very important.
Yeah. So I think save Jervis here. Get rid of Joel.
Yeah, if you wouldn't get rid of him the first couple of episodes now. Yeah.
He's got the worst social game of the 6. Best physically. Perfect person to get rid of.
So, yeah, with that, what do you think about best player, worst player of this episode?
Best player is Rudy, because we finally get him officially joining the Alliance and recognizing, like, yeah, I have to do this or I'm going to be gone. So he just recognizes even more that he has to adapt his game. Best player is Rudy. Worst player is Jervis for making the sexist remark. His tribal council performance is questionable, but it works for him. And just his general laziness, people are finally starting to catch on to.
I would agree with Rudy. I think there's an argument for Richard here.
There's definitely an argument for Richard. Richard was the other contender with his reward challenge and his general nakedness. It was close, but I decided to go with Jervis just because, I don't think the reward challenge ultimately mattered at all. It wasn't even a discussion. And yeah, but it was close, definitely close.
Yeah, if you were to put it in a vacuum with nothing else considered, maybe it would be Richard. But ultimately, Richard, even at the end of this episode, he's not in any worse of a position at the end than he is at the beginning.
Yeah. And Jervis is significantly worse position than he was at the beginning of the episode. He's probably 5 out of 5 now. So Derek, got anything else for weather report?
No, like I had mentioned earlier, we have our day 18 storm coming in right here at the end of episode 6. It's raining really hard again, and I'm sure we're going to see that starting here at the beginning of the merge. But just, again, general lethargy and disdain for the weather certainly has a larger focus on the survival aspect in the season 1 relative to 27 onward.
Yep.
So, yeah, 2 storms so far, a lot of sun. Haven't had any complaints about the sun. Nobody's sunburned. Interesting stuff.
Of the pre-merge, of everybody who's still left going into the pre-merge, who do you guys think is the best player?
It's got to be Richard. He's the head of an alliance, a majority alliance. He's shown that he's flexible enough to get away with a ton socially. He's shown that he's useful in challenges. He needs to dial it back on that arrogance a little bit. Mm-hmm. He's a provider. He is almost the entire package.
Yep. He's got some flaws in his social game, but
so to me, it's Richard. It's got to be.
I don't want to pick Richard, but I think I have to. There's no one who rises above him. I think you could maybe make an argument for someone like a Greg or a Rudy, but at the same time, they just don't really go over the top like I think Richard does.
Yeah, he understands what this game is better than anybody else, even Jeff Probst at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
He has strategy down pat. Physically, he's very good. Socially, a couple of nicks in the game, but, it's working for him so far. Yeah, I think it's got to be Richard. Worst player.
So worst player remaining.
Yep.
Remaining, yeah.
of the 10 going into the merge. Want me to say mine?
Yeah, go for it.
Dr. Sean. Far and away, Dr. Sean. The guy's clueless. He's so lazy. He argues with people. He's kind of got a negative attitude a lot of the time. The only person in Tagi not in the Alliance. He has no strategic chops whatsoever. He's fine in the challenges, but socially he's pissing everybody off. More than anybody. He's got the worst social game of everybody left in the game. He's got the worst strategic game of anybody left in the game.
I think Jervis is close, but I think the social game really just kind of cements Sean's place, just because I feel like that can be the biggest tipping point if you're looking at any single portion of the game.
How well liked is that player? And up until now, Jervis has been very well liked.
And even disregarding like that comment, you're going into a merge with people who had no idea, never heard that comment or anything. So, and of course, the whole not being a part of an alliance really hurt Sean's spot.
And I don't have a ton to argue on Sean being the worst. I think you're absolutely right. No strategic chops, no social chops, only one on his tribe without an alliance. That pretty much sums it up right there. If you're the only one on the outs, that's a bad look. Now, once we get later in the game and we start seeing tribe swaps and stuff like that, these things can change because it might not be your fault you're at the bottom of your alliance. Or the bottom of your tribe. It's absolutely his fault. He made this bet. He's got to lie in it.
Any other thoughts about going into this merge? How do you think the tribes stack up compared to each other?
Well, since it is 5-5, you want to say that the Tagi, basically alliance of 4, should be able to prevail here just because they're much more tight-knit than any of the others combined. And the only thing that will stop them, basically, is if Sean goes over and sides with them.
Sure.
Now, whether or not he does is yet to be seen. I would have to say that the group of 4 in Tagi is in a much better position.
And based on a viewer, I would say that Tagi is absolutely in the better position, because all we have on Pagong is a bunch of people who will not vote out each other before they vote out a member of Tagi. But you have that solid alliance. And we, as viewers, know that Gretchen will not join an alliance. So that right there means the best Pagong can do is 4v4 and force a tie. Mm-hmm. That is the best. I mean, they could come to a consensus, but it's Tagi. Tagi's in the better position.
So, very briefly, we got a section, Derek's quote board. Derek wrote down some of his favorite quotes from the first part of the game. Derek, want to go ahead and read a couple off?
Yeah, so first one, and this has got to be the best quote of probably the season and arguably Survivor. It's from Rudy. Me and Rich got to be pretty good friends. Not in a homosexual way, that's for sure. That embodies Rudy as a character. He's true to himself. It shows open-mindedness, and it really is a sign of the times. You know, you're talking in the year 2000 here. I don't think you can maybe get away with that anymore, but it was still a great quote, and it had me laughing. The second one is a quote from Sean, Dr. Sean, again related to Rich. I don't know what I'd do without the gay perspective anyway. I don't know what this means. I don't know if they even liked each other at this point, but in context, it was really funny because Rich was the one who was going out and providing the fish and was being exactly who he said he was, and Sean was a little sore about it, so that was fun. And then the last one's from Greg. I could have put 5 quotes down from Greg, but I'm just going to keep it at 1. They were starving around camp. They didn't have the fishing gear, so they started eating rats. And to this, Greg had to say, the question of edibility only has to do with your perception. Brava, Greg, because everyone ended up enjoying the rat. And Greg, you're just pure gold. I want more quotes from you.
Then the other thing Derek is keeping track of is Jeff Watch. You're on Jeff Watch. We're kind of keeping track of the evolution of Jeff Probst. I'll go ahead and say this. I'm not the biggest Jeff Probst fan in the world, but it is interesting to see how he's evolved. He was a much better host back in the day than he is now. I'll say that. That might be a hot take. But, Derek, what did you see from Jeff so far?
Well, no, first to combat you, I think Jeff is a great host and easily the best host left on television. That's just...
Suck up.
That's... No. I think on the island, on the show, he knows exactly what buttons he can push and what he can't push.
He's good at tribal council.
And to be fair,
and that's the biggest thing.
I do agree that I'm perfectly fine with him as a host.
But let's rewind 19 years ago. Jeff had wonderful one-liners like, I don't want to have to make a judgment call. Don't put me in that position. Wow, you guys are really getting on with one another. And he is so buddy friendly, like, oh, I'm just your neighbor. You know, you guys are playing on an island and you come visit with me every 3 days about what you're doing on the island. And he laughs and he giggles. He still has that Jeff stature where he stands with his hands on his hips and, you know, he leans forward at tribal council and he does all these things. But he's so friendly.
Yeah.
He is so easygoing, and he's all, I don't want to drill into this anymore. Modern Jeff, obviously not this way, but we're gonna keep this going. He is the nicey nice best friend host. He's your friendly neighborhood host, Jeff Probst. That's what he is right now, and I love it. It's so different from any Jeff I've ever seen.
Like last segment, I think the question is this must-watch Survivor? Ideally, we want you to go and watch every season like we are, but you can't. You're busy people. There's lots of TV to watch. If we really had to make a call, is this much-watched Survivor? That's the question we're going to be asking after every pre-merge and every post-merge, and like I said, about the season as a whole. The answer is yes. There is so much of just Survivor 101 that comes into play so early in this show. It's actually crazy how fast we get a lot of stuff. And this is fundamental Survivor. The pre-merge of Survivor Borneo is 100% must-watch Survivor. If you have to watch some Survivor, this is some of the stuff to watch.
I 100% agree. You don't necessarily get like a lot of the like super in-depth strategy or anything, but when you're talking about the basics and the building blocks of how to play the game, and if nothing else, just how to live another day and how to not piss anyone off and how to just move forward in the game, then absolutely, this season is a must-watch.
And the only thing that I would really add to this is, as a viewer, you need to know where you started in order to understand where you are now. And this entire pre-merge is people who are like you watching the show for the first time. They're living the show for the first time. And you get to experience that with in real time with them and experience that with them and see truly what it's all about. So I know I've only seen 27 onward and this one, but just as someone who understands storytelling and getting from A to B, you need to at least know where it started. So you should watch this one.
Okay, well, that was the first episode of our Survivor podcast. Next episode will be about the post-merge, and we'll finish up Borneo and see who wins this game and see how our winner picks do, because Gretchen and Sue are still here. So we'll see how it works out for them. In the meantime, I got nothing else for you. So head back to camp.
Head back to your lives.
See you next time.
Bye.